This is a follow-up video to my last video where I gave you a super easy system to follow to ensure you never talk to the wrong person again. Today's video is for you if you are open to learning new ways of becoming a better conversationalist. You get lost navigating past the, hey, how are you? Good, you? Good, you? Good, you? Part of the conversation. And maybe you're looking for inventive new ways to create new conversations with new people. If you aren't any of those people, maybe this video isn't the best one for you. Go ahead and check out my channel for some other great videos. Congratulations for being one of the lucky people still watching. By the end of this video, you'll have an easy to remember system with the 4 steps you need to fire up a conversation with anyone. I'm even going to role play to show you how everything I taught today looks in practice. I want you to think of having a conversation like having a fire. It needs a good reason to justify all the work it takes to really build it up. So now that we have a simple analogy to work with, let's keep going. Remember in elementary school when they taught you how to tell a story? I don't remember either. But as it turns out, that was actually one of the few useful things they did teach us in school. We learned the 5 W's and the how of the story. Today, we're going to use 3 of those. Why, who, what, and then how. I want you to use this 4-step thought process, the why, who, what, and how, the next time you go to break the ice to start a conversation. Let's start with why. Why do you want to start this conversation? Why do you want to spark this fire? Let me tell you the 2 possible reasons that you would want to do this. Reason 1, to have a meaningful conversation. This is when you want to learn, discuss, debate, inspire, and so on. Reason 2, to have a meaningless conversation. These are conversations you're having simply to avoid that awkward silence. It's the, hey, how's the weather today type of conversation. Ugh. Now let's move to the who. Who are you talking to? No. Who are you talking to? Do you see the difference? Do your best to quickly analyze and estimate the deep picture of this being in front of you. Does their body language look like they're comfortable talking to you? Are they dressed conservative or adventurous? Do you know who the people are that they like to hang out with? Finally, what types of jokes and questions do you think this person would be comfortable with? A quick note here. You don't want to prejudge this person based on how they present themselves to you. You're just looking at them to get a snapshot as a baseline so that you can confirm your assumptions later throughout the conversation. By asking yourself these questions, you can have a better idea of what this person would find interesting in conversation perhaps, and you can also understand what strategic approach you want to take to having this conversation. For example, if they look uncomfortable or intimidated by you, you can try using self-deprecating comments to bring yourself down. Another strategy is you can give them genuine compliments to bring their level of confidence up. These are great strategies to help make them feel comfortable talking to you in this conversation. I can't emphasize this enough to you. Do everything in your power that you can to make people around you feel comfortable. There's a chain reaction that occurs when you make people feel comfortable. First, they're going to like you more. This is going to lead to them wanting to have more conversations and deeper conversations with you. Third, this is really going to help you bond together and grow your relationship. It's so important to analyze who you're talking to because the better you understand who they are, the better you can understand how you should treat them and the more comfortable you're going to be able to make this person. Okay, we're plugging along. Let's move to the what. What materials do you have to make this conversation happen? What materials do you have to start this fire? The starter material comes in 3 forms: the comment, the compliment, and the question. Let's assume here that we're talking to a stranger. We know nothing about them, only what this situation presents us with. What we're doing in this situation before we start the fire, before we start the conversation, we need to find some sticks, some kindling. What are we going to burn to really ignite this conversation and get it going? And that's exactly when we turn to the comment, the compliment, or the question. Listen closely because I'm going to share with you some example situational material you can work with too. Note, I'll teach you how to use this material next. When you're looking for something in the situation to start the conversation with, here are some great probing questions that you can ask yourself. Do they have any cool gadgets? What are they wearing? Is it interesting, unique, or fashionable? Are they doing anything unusual you could use to ignite that conversation? Is there anything unordinary going on in the environment around you? What do they appear to be interested in right now? Finally, what do you think they might be feeling right now? If you'd really like to remember some of these questions that you can use in future conversations, click the link below and it'll take you to my blog. All this awesome material is going to set a great foundation for your fire. So let's move to the how. The how is about how you can use all this material that you've gathered to get the momentum going. How can you juice up this conversation into something more meaningful? I'd love to introduce you to one of your new best friends, the follow-up question. After you've analyzed this situational environment of you and this person you're looking to start this conversation with, it's so important that you have follow-up questions in your mind. So you have these materials in your mind of the questions we discussed earlier. Now you can add follow-up questions, so you've got 2 or 3 comments or questions to make as soon as you've dropped your first icebreaker. That way you hit the ground running and you can gain some momentum in this conversation and seamlessly transition it wherever you want. As I promised you earlier, I'm going to wrap all this together into an example where I'm going to do a little bit of role playing on how I would use a comment to start a conversation and really build that momentum. In this example, I was standing in a painfully long grocery line waiting for my turn to check out the groceries. I was looking around, doing as I do, seeing if there was anyone around that looked like they'd be a cool person to strike up a conversation with. I saw the guy in front of me had an Apple Watch, so I thought, what a perfect opportunity for me to practice my conversation skills and strike up a conversation. In my mind, I had a good idea of how I wanted to break the ice, making a comment on his Apple Watch. But as I mentioned earlier, it's so important to have follow-up questions to ensure that you build that momentum in the conversation early. So after coming up with an icebreaker and then 2 follow-up questions in my head before I had even said anything to this guy, this is how the conversation looked. Wow, you have an Apple Watch. I've been looking at getting one.
Yeah, the watch is great.
I've seen some pretty cool things you can do with it. What's your favorite app that you use?
I can actually use my watch instead of using my phone to record my workouts. It's really handy.
Oh, that sounds pretty slick. Where do you work out?
Oh, I just go to the local gym here in town.
Oh, nice. How often do you go?
I aim for 5 days a week, but I'm not always consistent. I take my health pretty seriously.
We only get one body, so good on you for taking care of yours. I've actually been really trying to work on my health too lately. What are some of the best things you recommend I do to be healthy like you?
Oh, great question. I do lots of stuff. First,
let's take a look and analyze this conversation from both perspectives. Wow, you have an Apple Watch. I've been looking at getting one. This was the material I used to start the conversation.
Yeah, the watch is great. Why is this guy talking to me?
I've seen some pretty cool things you can do with it. What's your favorite app that you use? This was follow-up number 1, my first stick I laid on the fire to get some momentum going.
I can actually use my watch instead of using my phone to record my workouts. It's really handy. At least he wants to talk about things I'm interested in. I'll give him my time of day.
Oh, that sounds pretty slick. Where do you work out? Note that follow-up 2 was queued in my head, ready to go, but something more interesting came up in the conversation I thought I'd rather ask about. I thought it was awesome that the guy works out. It's always fun to talk to people about things that they're passionate about doing. This brings out some exciting conversation and keeps people engaged.
Oh, I just go to the local gym here in town. I guess he's just being friendly while we wait in line.
Oh, nice. How often do you go? There's follow-up question number 1 to this new topic we're talking about, workouts.
I aim for 5 days a week, but I'm not always consistent. I take my health pretty seriously.
Ah, cool. He takes his health seriously. I don't really want to get into the nitty-gritty of his training program, so I'm going to ask about his health instead. Dang. I can't think of a question though. Let's say something generic to give me more time to think. We only get one body, so good on you for taking care of yours. I have a good question now. Let's ask him that. I've actually been really trying to work on my health too lately. What are some of the best things you recommend I do to be healthy like you? Notice throughout the conversation, I'm always trying to ask questions that are open-ended. If you ask questions that can be answered with one word, it is the best way to kill a conversation. If you do only think of a question to ask somebody that is a one-word answer potential, make sure that you have some follow-up questions ready to go in your mind so you can follow up on that question, buy more time for you to think of other ways that you can initiate the conversation.
Okay, that was a subtle compliment. He acknowledged me for being healthy. Seems like a decent guy. Oh, great question. I do lots of stuff. First,
the last note that I want to make clear as a rule of conversation, whenever you start a conversation, you are the one who is responsible for continuing to initiate it. Never, ever, ever expect when you initiate a conversation, someone's going to take hold of it and start asking you questions. If they do, it's because that they're interested in you, and that's a great sign. But you can't expect that. For this example, He didn't actually know why I was wanting to have the conversation with him in the first place, so he wasn't eager to start learning about me and asking me more questions about myself. At the end of the day, just remember, there's not always going to be the perfect moment to spark a conversation. Just take a breath, have fun, and go for it. It may take a few moments of looking like a total deer in headlights, but if you're willing to endure those, I promise you, you'll be able to have brilliant conversations with anyone after a few strikeouts, after a few bad icebreakers, and after a few times that you forgot how to follow up on the conversation. You're going to learn, I promise you. And do you know how I know this? It's because I have been the guy to have conversations with people and they just didn't work. I fell flat on my face and I looked like an idiot, but it was all worth it because I feel very confident with my ability to have conversations with people now, and I highly recommend going out there and giving these lessons a try. So I'd like to give you a quick summary of what we went over today. Starting a conversation is just like starting a fire. You need to prepare your supplies and material before you can start it. Please, do the best you can to make everyone around you feel comfortable. The strategy behind this may entail you using self-deprecating jokes to bring yourself down to their level, or giving them genuine compliments to help raise them up and make them feel comfortable in conversation with you. Remember to ask yourself before and during the conversation the why, who, what, and how. Why do you want to start that conversation in the first place? Who is the person under that shell that you're speaking to or looking to speak to? What material can you use to start this conversation, to start this fire? Remember, you've got the comment, the compliment, and the question as 3 great tools to get you started. How can you use that material around you to spark that amazing conversation and build the momentum too? When you pick your conversation starter, try to have 1 to 2 follow-up questions ready to go in your mind to build conversational momentum. Avoid asking questions that have a potential one-word answer. If you do have to ask these type of questions, have those follow-ups ready to go in your mind that you can ask them to keep the conversation momentum going and spare you that awkward silence. Today, my challenge for you is to think more strategically about how you approach conversations. Next time you go to start a conversation with someone, consider the 3 W's and how. Why am I having the conversation? Who am I talking to? What am I going to use to start the conversation? And how am I going to start it? Push yourself out of your comfort zone every day, and in a week, a month, a year, you will seriously thank yourself for doing it. That's my time for today. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with someone dear to you. It would mean the world to me if you would finesse that like and subscribe button. Remember, this content is for you. You can take ownership in this channel by leaving a comment below. Let me know what you liked and didn't like about this video, and I promise I'll make improvements for the next one. Keep working hard on you, and I'll see you in the next video.